Let's call to order this meeting of the Monroe County Redevelopment Commission for Wednesday, October 18th, 2023. Jeff, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Martin.
Present.
Commissioner Cassidy.
Present.
Commissioner McCarty.
Present.
Commissioner Kiesling.
Here.
Commissioner Shelton.
Here.
My mind's blank. I apologize. Commissioner Tucker. I remembered Brad.
That's right, first of all, they're not voting. That's what they say, they're not voting.
So all members are present, and I apologize. And Mr. Shelton is here virtually.
Yes. He is virtual. Correct. Okay. Let's do the Fullerton Pike TIF bond update. You have an update here.
Yes, we are, and I'm going to do my best to remember everything Lisa told me.
Here's Lisa.
She's right there.
Great. So she can correct me where I'm wrong.
Perfect timing.
The bid letting for the bridge has been moved to January of this year, which leads to, we've had long discussions with the financial advisor and bond counsel, given that the bonds are to close this year in conjunction with the open annexation question. One of the goals is to make sure that there is debt in this TIF district to help fund this project long term as it was originally intended to. Right. The only way, we all agreed that the only way to guarantee that is to go ahead and close on the bonds this calendar year, even though we won't have the bids in until January. So there is some risk that those bids would come into the point where that project would not be awardable. But in our bond document, we do have that secondary project that we could still utilize the funds for, but it would be outside the TIF district. However, the obligation would still be in there for the Redevelopment Commission as of the first of the year. So the recommendation is, and we just want to make sure you guys are comfortable, is that we go ahead and move forward with closing that bond. We think we're fine, right? We think we have plenty of funds in there and that we have a cushion that is reasonable for the bids. But we just wanted to make sure that there is that slight risk that we'd have to pivot to that other and that.
So Jeff, when would you get the bonds before then?
We would close them by the end of this year.
And close them before that time? I mean, you have to wait till the end of the year? That's what I'm asking. Because the bonds are good right now, but, you know.
Well, I think what has happened is that we've started the process to market, and that we would bid the bonds and get the bonds sold prior to Thanksgiving, but not close those until sometime prior to the end of the year. So we're on pace to do that. It's just we had a long conversation about this, and I think we looked at 3 or 4 different scenarios, and they each had risks. Lisa and I, working with them, feel that this is the least amount of risk of any of the scenarios that were.
Okay.
Isn't the bridge project is funded from several sources?
Correct.
And so the risk here is that the bid will come in so much higher, that these funds plus the other funds that are available would not cover the cost?
I think that's part of the risk. I think the other part of the risk is if they come back so high that the state deems it unawardable. Okay. And we've seen that in some of our other projects. Okay. Although, and I'm going to quote Lisa, and she can hit me if I'm wrong, trends, if you look trends across statewide recently, the engineers' estimates have been fairly spot on with what the bids are coming in at. So, good. Which I don't think we could have said that a while ago.
Correct.
That answers my question. If how other projects have been faring in terms of their estimates. So.
And that's what kind of a statewide analysis.
Yeah.
Looking at that statewide, they seem to be. Either the engineerings are catching up with the market, or the market has settled such that their estimates are accurate.
All right.
Okay. All right.
What caused to be pushed back? Just the state's Pardon me?
What caused the bids to be pushed back? Is that just a state situation from a letting?
You mean to a different letting date?
Yeah.
No, actually, so there's a new permit that's called a Clomer permit. And it's a LOMAR, and it's a land map revision permit. And it has to do with being in floodplain areas.
Okay.
So it has to go through a FEMA process, and we waited for over a year. It's brand new process. State of Indiana decided to take on the process themselves instead of leaving it in the hands of FEMA. So they review everything, and then they send it to the FEMA level, and then they have to approve it. So that is what we have been waiting on for months, and we finally obtained that in September. So we kept having to move the letting date back, just waiting for that process. Like I said, it's brand new, and not all projects fall into that category with this new permit, but
This one did.
this one did.
Okay.
So
Okay.
now we kind of know how it works moving forward. We hope we don't run into another one, but that's kind of what held it up, and we kept moving it back. We had no right-of-way issues. Utilities are being moved at this time, so it's moving along good.
It just, and
So yeah, that's what held it up.
And our risk period, realistically, if we go ahead with the bonds, close it towards the end of the year, and it lets in January, we've only got a 30 to 60-day risk window in regards to it, providing it all comes in at the proper cost.
So as far as the letting date, as the middle of January, I'm going to say around January 13th, January 14th.
Okay.
So typically, I can be notified on that day, telling me what the lowest bid was. If it's a certain percentage over the engineer's estimate, NDOT chooses not to award that because the contract is actually with NDOT, not Monroe County. If it's within a range, but maybe over, then they will contact me to see if I can
Pony up.
pony up with the extra funds. And then I have 3 days to accept it.
Okay.
If I don't accept it in 3 days, then we wouldn't get the project. And then we have 30 days to turn around, if we accept it, to pay our portion of the project.
Which we've already got. We'll have the funds available to pay our portion.
If we have the bond and we have our major bridge fund, we have the TIF district, so yes, we have funds sitting there.
We'll be fine. And any of the funds that we go ahead with the bond are really not a significant cost to the county as a whole by going ahead and doing this.
Well, there's always a cost to issuing bonds, right? What to me minimizes the risk is that if this project can't go, we have a secondary project that we could move up into, I think, next fall bid letting to use the funds on. So to me, the risk is present no matter what. If it's unawardable, the risk is the loss of the federal fundings as that's part of this project. That's really the risk. And in my mind, it's there either way. If we didn't have this secondary project already included in the bond, then there would be a much more significant risk that we'd have a large amount of money and no project to use it on, but we've kind of already handled some of that risk already.
So with that amount of money, you feel we've got enough that as this comes through, we'll be able to complete our primary project of Fullerton Pike.
Yes, that is that's our number one focus. So we'll do whatever we can to pull whatever funds when it comes through. Okay.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay. Any other questions about that? Right, let's move on. Minutes, we don't have any.
I apologize.
That's okay.
Table it till next week.
We'll save that till the next time. Claims. We have 2 claims today. One from Nature's Way for $34,082 and a penny, and one from the Clerk of Hamilton Circuit Court Central Supply Parcel 2 claim. I'm sure this has to do with the overpass over the railroad, Vernal Pike, etc. That amount is $113,290.
So what did Nature's Way do?
So the commissioners had appropriated back in 2019, they had appropriated landscaping for the roundabout at Rogers Street and Gordon Pike. So we had gone through the process before COVID. We had, we worked with a design group to come up with a project. When we went to letting, I think it was in 2020, we received one bid and it came back at $785,000 to do the landscaping and what we wanted for that, so we did not award it. So we actually kind of pieced it together between Paul, myself. We hired Nature's Way. We had sent it to other landscaping companies in the area. They did not have any interest in it. And then we brought Electric Plus on board for lighting. And then the commissioners approved a contract with Nature's Way. So they coordinated the project. They said, we worked with Bybee Stone. We have stone hedges set in the middle of the roundabout now. I don't know if you've been down there, have seen it. We have a lighting system installed and we have an irrigation system installed. But that bond fund, we had depleted that over the last 3 years, so we were finishing up what we were doing. The commissioners will keep on Nature's Way moving forward to make sure the plantings and everything are taken care of. And that's kind of their last step, to put in some plantings this fall. Working with Val at Nature's Way has been great. She's really proud of the project.
Let's make sure they water things.
Yeah,
My stuff didn't go.
that's why we did an irrigation system in there, because the highway's doesn't do much with plants, so we mow them, so. So we wanted to make it, and we worked with a group down there, a full committee of making it something that they, that they wanted and that they would drive through and see every day, so.
I met up with some people when I was there for the library, and they were talking about it, and hopefully we get this done.
Yeah, it should be wrapping up, and again, I haven't been down there at night to see the lighting, but I want to get down there when they do the planting, so that should be soon. So that was kind of finishing out that project, but it was mainly funded through the GEO bond, through the commissioners.
I just thought I'd ask.
One of the nice things about roundabouts is we have a space to work with in the middle.
Yep, and we hope to mimic the next roundabout in that phase 3 off this one.
Okay.
And pay for that through our funding, so.
Good.
Okay. I have to give you compliments. I drive by it every day.
I like the stone.
And the way.
We've had pros and cons, and we've had,
Really?
maybe minimal negativity on it. But we've had some really encouraging emails and stuff that people like it, and it's got some character to it a little bit. I think the plantings and the way we worked it with Nature's Way, they're gonna do it to where there's different blooms each time of the year. So yeah, I'm anxious to see how it looks come next spring.
Yeah, I'm gonna say, the overall design and what I've heard from the community as a whole is a very positive thing.
Good,
And
good.
I compliment you on the fact that you were able to get the budget down from 700,000 to.
Yeah, 780,000 down to
Yeah.
200,
Yeah.
but it worked, and Nature's Way worked with us too, and Electric Plus, and the vendors, the subcontractors they had, so it was definitely a group effort.
I'm gonna say, compliments to everybody involved.
Okay, tell me about Central Supply. This is one of our parcels that was outstanding, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
And we now have it,
Correct.
Yes.
and
And
we're just at one parcel left?
And we do, but I've got some staff comments about that.
Oh, okay. So we, and, so we get that other parcel, and then we are ready to go, pretty
Right.
much?
This one goes to letting in January, I think. I think both those projects are letting
Okay.
about the same time.
All right. I really look forward to getting this done. This is something we've needed to do for a while, ever since that highway expanded, and getting this completed would be a real help, I think, to traffic management on the west side. You had some other comments about, now, let's deal with this first, then. Do I have a motion to approve the claims?
I move that we approve the claim.
Harris moves. Do we have a second?
Second?
Colin seconds. We have a motion and a second to approve the claims and transfers for this month in the amount of $34,082 and a penny for Nature's Way, and $113,290 to the Clerk of Hamilton Circuit Court for the Central Supply Parcel 2 claim, for a total of $372.01. Please read the roll.
Commissioner Martin,
Yes.
Commissioner Cassidy,
Yes.
Commissioner McCarty,
Yes.
Commissioner Kiesling,
Yes.
Commissioner Shelton,
You lost it.
Mr. Shelton?
Yeah,
He's
We lost
Drop
gone,
off?
maybe?
okay.
him. Lost him.
Okay,
motion is approved 4-0.
okay. You have a signing sheet? Okay. You said you had some other information about, let's do the public comment first. No one from the public, so we will move past that. And now we have staff comments, and as I understand, you have something to say.
I have a couple things. I think I'll start with the remaining parcel. We have gone through 2 mediations, and in between, maybe take a step back. If you recall, the big concern was the cost to cure, which is essentially, hey, we are taking some of your property and it's going to have effects on how you operate your business that is more than just because you lost some land. And in this case, it was the ability for trucks to move in and out of their bays, right? So when we had the initial review and look at the properties, we looked at the turning radius and things like that, and it showed, from what we could tell, that you could make those turns no problem, and that was in large part, and they were like, no, you cannot, and that was the cost to cure was a big difference between having to do something like that or not. That's where we ended the first mediation, because we were just at an impasse because of that issue. So what we did between mediations, we had a surveyor survey the line at their business, and then we saw, and we went out and we looked, and we saw people driving trucks and things like that, and it basically came to the conclusion that potentially an extreme expert driver could have made that turn, but to count on that day in and day out with deliveries was not reasonable. And so we kind of looked at the cost to cure in a different light after that, and so we came to the resolution that what we had paid into the court based upon the appraisals was probably I don't want to say that we felt that it was entirely accurate, but they felt it was worth even more, and so we kind of settled on that number, the amount we already paid. And so that's what came out of mediation. It is still subject to approvals by the bank that has the mortgage on the property, as well as the Board of County Commissioners, but that's going to be the recommendation we give to the county commissioners. So assuming that all concludes that way, then we would have acquired the last remaining parcel that we need for the project. And so we kind of are paying more than we expected, but it's because there was additional facts that we got in that made where we were at when we thought we were paying this was too high, that made that not seem like it was actually factually accurate. So we kind of worked with them, and we kind of came to that, negotiated to them.
Do I recall correctly that we've already paid this actually by making the deposit to the court?
Correct.
So it's already been paid?
Yes.
Okay.
And so that was update one. My second update is at the last meeting, I discussed how the fire department was requesting for a fire truck, and that we needed to work out the Curry Pike reconstruction project timeline and cost. I've met with Paul Satterley. I expect to have something preliminary from him prior to your next meeting, and so maybe we'll have more information there, but we are working on that, and we are seeing where all that will land. I think at the end of the day, talking to Paul, there are going to be some questions as to what do we all want to do with the reconstruction project, and a lot of it are, again, this is a brief, he doesn't know about sidewalks on both sides, pass, and whether we need to acquire right-of-way for that, or whether we just want to leave it as kind of a single sidewalk as it is. There'll be those kind of questions that we'll have to work through, but I think he's preparing kind of at least a limited scope, hey, to do this, this is what it'll cost, and so we'll have a better idea on that next month.
Okay.
Do you have anything?
And that evaluation will give us be able to identify the funding that we would have to potentially give to, or at least give acknowledgement to the fire department.
Again, and just to recall that conversation, there is at this point in time, a 3 to 4 year lead time from when you order a fire truck to when you get it. I think what he indicated was that if he got in line now, we would have like a year to make a final determination as to whether we can help support that and to what extent we could support that for working with them to see if we could come up with the total and not have any charge against them. So there's a lot of time already built in, but I think I wouldn't recommend even making that kind of a commitment until we've had that analysis done. Now, if that analysis was going to take 6 months, I would say, well, maybe we should do something else, but I think the thought is if we could have a general idea in the next month or so, that would probably be a great idea.
Probably be able to look at, oh, excuse me, go ahead.
So in order for him to order the truck, does he have to make a down payment, or do we have to show that we have money in the bank or anything of that sort?
I don't believe so. I think he can put his name on the list now, and then in the next year or so,
Right.
he can withdraw his name at no cost. I'm putting words in his mouth, but this is how I understood it when he explained it to me. He could withdraw his name until they actually started doing the engineering and design for that particular vehicle, which,
Because that's a lot of money to put in there, and then I don't want that money being held up either.
well, I don't think there's a deposit at this stage. I think once that year runs out, then there may be.
Maybe a deposit.
Right, but I think there is that time range, and you know, I think if we're going to know a little bit more information and probably have a much better feel for what the total cost of the Curry Pike reconstruction project will be, you'll have a better understanding of whether this is something that we can look at or not.
All right.
Yeah.
And dealing on that particular line, just to make sure, I know Paul's extremely busy and extremely good at what he does. So do you feel comfortable, Lisa, that he would have adequate time to have something for us, so by the end of the year? Because looking
Yeah.
at that, to try to at least give the fire department a, yes, we think we can to move forward, or to say, you know, unfortunately, based on the circumstances, that we're unable to.
Yeah, and I think I'll have the opportunity to where I can sit down and talk with Paul too. I think we have enough existing right-of-way over the years that we've purchased the right-of-way. I know there's sidewalks out there that needs to be reconstructed. There's ADA ramps that need to be updated to today's standards. And then the reconstruction of the roadway to handle the traffic that it does at this point.
Yeah.
We know we're gonna have to break it down into phases.
Okay.
I am in the process of getting a design for Curry and Vernal traffic signal because it needs redone, but I think I can pay for that out of my local road and street budget to try and help with that. So to kind of, I mean, I really don't want to go back and start purchasing right-of-way and everything for Curry Pike. I want to fix what's there.
Yeah.
I don't know, you guys might have a different vision for it. I think it can handle the capacity at this point. And then when we get the Vernal Pike overpass completed, I think that will help.
Yeah.
But it's just when, you know, you put in a 4-lane road that's getting 25,000 cars a day, you have to, crack ceiling's not gonna do anything for that. You're gonna have to mill up the road, you're gonna have to upgrade the sidewalks and stuff, so that's my goal, and not, buying more right-of-way and installing paths and things. So yeah, but I think I think with the numbers that we have and what we've been paving and what comes in for bid projects, that we can look at NDOT quantities of how those costs come in, he could have a pretty good picture of it.
Okay. Yeah, just looking at that standpoint, December, latest
Yeah.
January, that we'd be able to
Yeah.
have something to say, yes, we think that we are going to at least commit to helping
Right.
you.
And we
or
can look
not.
at something like a sample road project to where we, many projects that we've done in the last couple of years to see kind of what the quantities are coming in at and what bids are coming in at NDOT, so we can look at all those lettings. So that's probably where he'll get a lot of his costs from, so.
And part of this that we would be looking at even is from the road standpoint, is this going to come from our from our Curry Pike TIF in that area? Is where those dollars will come, so we can project that with FSG.
Yeah, I think we've got
I think that we usually do that in March.
Okay.
But I guess my feeling is, we know what our bond payments are gonna be. And so, once we get the Vernal Pike Connector project done, this is really the next project on the list, and, probably the last significant project that won't be driven by, I know there's the Angelina Way it's in the plan that it'll curve all the way over to, what road would it? Loesch, yeah, I think it is Loesch. So I think that's in the plan, but I guess at this point, it doesn't seem like a high priority, because we got plenty of space elsewhere in that TIF district for people to grow. So really, the Curry Pike reconstruction is kind of the last major project that I think is there until the next major project comes in, right?
Right.
Did the county abate McAllister?
What'd you ask?
What was that?
I don't believe so, no.
Okay, so McAllister across from where Cook has that TIF, so that site will be generating revenue in 3 years if they go ahead and start construction reasonably soon. We should start seeing tax revenue from it in 3 years, about something
Yeah.
like that. So that'll be a bump that we'll have, and if anybody else comes into that TIF, we should get some more increments in terms of revenue coming in as well. Yeah, as I recall, the last time we did the longer-term projection, it's 2024 that was our real lean year.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Anybody else have any questions? Any other staff comments?
That's what I had.
Okay, I have a question. What's our deal with Hunter Valley Road, and what's going on or not going on, or?
Have you talked? I know, I don't want to speak for Crier, but I do know that they did just finish that connection of Lentil. And that's been within the last month or so. So I expect for them to maybe push that one more, but I do know that they were possibly even on a timeline for the Lentil, because that was through Plan Commission.
Okay.
And I do know that just got, that was recently completed.
All right.
I haven't talked to Steve
Can
or
we
anybody.
check and see what the status is
Yeah.
there, and whether all the permits are done, and
I think I'm
what's
still
holding
waiting
us
on
up? Because
the
it's,
last payment for Hart Street, so.
I will get a hold of him, and I will get you guys an email update.
because we
So,
got.
and they could be caught in the Lomar.
No,
No, okay.
I don't
there you
think so.
Had to ask.
They haven't got that far yet, because
Ah.
they're still just under design, so I don't think they've gotten to their permitting process, so.
I thought that they had, I thought the last time I talked to Steve, my memory was that he was waiting on the DNR permit for the
Yeah,
bridge.
that would be, yeah, that would be different, yeah.
And I think that was over the summer.
Yeah.
And I
that's-
thought, I thought you had asked
Sounds
that
right.
question in July or August, and I
Mhm.
checked with him after that, and that was still the case. But I'll reach out to him
Yeah,
again.
I
and
mean, we were
confirm.
supposed to start construction this summer, and now it looks like next summer. And I know people would like to be able to use that road, and we are collecting funds for it, so. But he hasn't drawn anything on that bond, right?
I think my memory is the only thing that had been drawn the last I knew, and we've been watching the claims as they come through, and I don't remember, was the closing costs, the bond counsel, and
Right.
I think that's the only thing that's been
Okay.
drawn on it.
All right.
I can reach out to their engineering firm.
Any other staff comments? All right, we're on to commissioner comments. I have none, so I can
I have none.
pass along. Iris, do you have some
Nope.
comments?
I don't have any.
Brad, did you want to say anything? Nope. Cullen?
No, I'm good.
Randy?
Thank
I
you.
have one, sorry, I just realized. I was standing with some other people who knew something about the Curry Pike and the roundabout and everything. It was interesting what they knew and what they didn't know. I was just listening. Wasn't participating, but they apparently had done their homework as to when things were going to happen. They had some timelines and things like that. There are some people paying attention, which is good, which is what we want, right?
Yeah. I mean, it works. I was on it today.
Looks like it's gonna be a very busy January.
Very busy January.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's huge, having both those projects going at the same time.
Wow.
But, I want to say the last time Vernal Pike went to bid, I want to say the lowest bid was like 13.7 million. Right now, NDOT has, 9.854 committed to the project, but I have had contact with NDOT. So if it does come in to where it is awardable, oh, I'm sorry. If it does come in where it's awardable, I think they'll take it, if they need to, they'll take it up to the full 80/20. It's close right now with the engineering estimate, but I think that we've kind of worked that out. So that way I won't use more of the TIF funds.
And both of these projects they move are what, a 2-year construction time?
Usually 18 to 24 months.
Okay, so, yep, 24 to 26, it's gonna be busy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Excellent. I appreciate all your guys' hard work on
Thanks.
moving these things forward.
Let's see, I had one other.
No, somebody's talking to you.
Call you back in a bit. Bye. There was something else. Oh, you were going to look at places for possible residential TIFs. So I
Yes.
gave you a list.
Yes.
For what? I didn't hear you.
Places to put a residential TIF.
Oh, okay, that's right, yes.
Did you find out anything?
They are, the ones you gave me are in the airport zoning area, noise, airport noise zoning. And so that was going to lead to a lot of issues. I have met with city officials, Mr. Zodi. I've met with, or I had a phone conversation with IU Real Estate, and I've sat down with our county planning staff, asking each if they were aware of any areas. Haven't heard back from, well, I haven't really expected to hear back from them unless they found something from IU and the city. And our planning department, I think we worked through and we found a couple of different options. They're going to continue looking for options. And so I think we are closer. I guess my goal, when I've told our planning department, is that I really would like to get something to the commissioners and the council, at least in an executive session, either end of October, early November, with the thought that if we need to move forward, we'll have to do it quickly so we can get the design work started in December, January, because we have to have the funds obligated by the end of 2024 and expended by the end of 2026. And in addition, the federal plan that I think we can most closely mirror would require the beginning of a home within the first 12 months after purchase of the property. So, you know, it's going to be a fairly condensed timeline, particularly maybe people who are in the construction industry. This isn't as condensed as it is to those of us in government, but this is a pretty condensed timeline for how we typically would handle a project of this magnitude.
What's the process that time-wise, as we have these constraints, to actually put the TIF together? Would we utilize outside?
I think you would want the TIF put together prior to the completion of any improvements, right? So we would want to get the TIF put together probably before we began building the infrastructure, because when you build the infrastructure, it will increase the assessed value, and that's what you're trying to capture.
Right. So, when well, and maybe I wasn't clear. Just the actual time you think it would take from legal counsel going through the approval process from the boards that you need, is that a 2-month, 6-month process?
It's not 6.
Okay.
I guess in this case, I think it probably could be done 2 to 3 months. The big education piece of this, whenever we've done any of these in the past, is with the Plan Commission. And so I think reaching out to the Plan Commission staff early to get their analysis on where are good areas to put this and where it is going to be really helpful. I mean, traditionally, or at least the last couple times, we've really just been within or just slightly expanding one of our current TIF districts. And so those are different issues than what we're thinking here. And I think there is an education curve for residential TIF that we'll have to go through with them. Yeah. And so I think residential TIFs everywhere in the state are going to have a learning curve that is going to continue for the next few years, because I think the state has, at least over the last couple of years, really have changed the rules when it comes to residential TIFs. Yeah. I don't think it's required anymore, but I still would expect a conversation with the school district where we're going to do this. I think even though I don't think their approval is required anymore, I still think it's a good step to go through and have. So I would still expect to do some of those things as we move forward, but I think that's kind of the timeline. I would expect that maybe to go above and beyond your question, is if we could analyze and figure out the proper location that the commissioners and the council are willing to fund, then I think we would probably start the process with you and with the planning department on, well, here it is, here's our expectations, and then move forward from there with the thought that we would probably want to have the TIF in place sometime next summer. If not, maybe next fall at the latest, because I think once we get control of the property and are able to do it, we've got to move pretty fast. So I would think we'd want to at least have everybody educated well before that, so that if we had to do it, we could do it fairly quickly.
Okay.
Jeff, what kind of guidelines are we looking at? I know we early on we looked at, I think was it the poverty rate or I forget the ratio, the formula between Bloomington Township and Richland, which township determined where we could set a TIF at the time.
Well, those rules have gone away, right?
They have gone, okay.
The building requirement, we used to have a requirement that within the township, if you had more than 1% of single-family residential growth, you couldn't put a residential TIF there. But I think those requirements have gone away.
And that went with the last session.
Yeah, they changed. They took away a lot of the restrictions on where you could place these.
Yet they weren't occurring.
Right, okay. So are we looking more in approximation to Bloomington, or, I mean, it sounds like with the airport area, that was one possibility, but what other areas are there? I mean, is there a zone? Let's put it that way.
We don't have a zone, I guess.
Right.
In our, what I am, some of the criteria, maybe this will help, some of the criteria that we think we really want to hit are the availability of reaching public transportation in a
Right.
reasonable manner, the availability of being able to go to a grocery store within a reasonable distance. Those kind of things are what's keying where we're looking.
It's probably going to need sewer,
Well,
Yeah.
sewer is going to
Gas,
be a requirement.
all the
Yeah.
stuff.
Right.
Yeah, all the stuff.
So that pretty well constrains what we can do.
Right,
From a geographic
from
standpoint.
a geographic standpoint,
Well,
yeah.
and service.
Utility services.
I mean,
Yeah,
you
that's the
gotta-
big thing,
You're not
yeah.
going to build a whole new plant for something like this.
Right, right. Got it.
Okay.
Okay. One last thing, I have been notified by Jim Shelton that he's thinking about retiring from the Redevelopment Commission, which means we would need to find a replacement. So if any of you know of anybody who might be interested in serving on the Redevelopment Commission.
He's a commissioner appointment?
Hmm?
He's a commissioner
I believe
appointment?
so, yes.
Yeah, I believe so. Please talk with them, and if they are really interested,
Do we
get a
need-
hold of Jeff.
Do we need to have representation from his area or anything? Is there any restriction to what?
I,
There is not.
I think it's just a county resident. Yeah, I don't even think I think people, certainly people who live in the city that live in the county as well.
I know, yeah, I
Like
agree.
you.
Like, I'm still in the county too, right?
Yep, you're still in the county. But Jim has been a great member of the Redevelopment
has,
Commission.
yeah.
And going to miss having him available.
Very thoughtful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, anything else from anybody? If not, I will entertain a
And
motion to adjourn.
How soon is he thinking about retiring?
End of his current term.
The current term, okay, that's good, that's helpful.
Yeah.
Gives somebody a chance to look around and see.
The end of the year.
End of the year.
Yeah. Still another couple of months, so. But he's been attending almost always in the last year, by Zoom.
Yeah.
Always has had input, and good input too.
Would someone care to move for adjournment?
So moved.
I move, second.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn. We are adjourned.